Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the fourth episode of the Adversity Podcast. On the show today, we've got someone who's captured every big sports championship in Toronto within the last 5 years with a camera, TFC winning the MLS Cup, the Toronto Raptors NBA Championship Parade, the Toronto Marlies winning the Calder Cup, and numerous Grey Cup championships.
Yeah, 2 now.
2, okay. I was supposed to ask you that before we started to see if it was 2 or numerous. You also shoot for the Toronto Maple Leafs, Toronto Marlies. It's Thomas.
Skrlj.
I was going to say Skrlj. First off,
Be close.
I can't believe I forgot to ask you about that. I need to ask, though. Out of every championship that you've taken photos of or covered as a photographer, which one's your favorite?
I was starting us off hot on that one, eh?
Yeah.
Oh man, there's so many that are so good in so many different ways. Like Raptors was great because that was such a historic moment, but I wasn't actually there for the game itself.
Mm-hmm.
I was just there. I was in Toronto. I was in Jurassic Park, just outside of Scotiabank Arena with all the fans. So I still got to experience that kind of emotion, but it's not like I was covering the fans, covering the game itself. It was just kind of more the fan aspect and being able to run through the city and then the parade that happened later, which was just such a crazy couple of days. So that was really high up there in terms of how memorable it was. But I think my favorite would be the Toronto Marlies winning the Calder Cup.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know. I feel like that'd be a sleeper pick for a lot of people, especially when you have like Grey Cup, which is like a week-long event and everything. But for Calder Cup, that was my first season with the team. So just getting my foot in the door in shooting sports and everything, and then getting the opportunity to be a photographer with the Toronto Marlies team, and then having such like a perfect year where they go all the way to the finals and then win. It was just such like, you can't ask for anything better. Like you can cover other teams for years and not get anything. And then the fact that I got it right away was just, it's perfect.
What was the atmosphere like? Obviously, I at that point, I don't even think I was really watching the Toronto Marlies. And even now, like the arena doesn't get as full as it was then. Like, what was the atmosphere like during those last few games?
Yeah. And it kind of, it's slower now. I know what you mean. Like, it's definitely a weird feeling, especially with the team being so split, like a lot of the players being called up and everything. But I think once playoffs roll around, even this year, it's going to start to change again. That year, it was packed. Like, I can still feel how it looked. Like, some hockey games, you look into the stands with like a minute or two left and a whole bunch of people already left to beat traffic and everything. And everyone was staying there right to the end. It was electric. It was a small arena. Like, it's not as big as it would be in like Scotiabank or a lot of other rinks, but it was, you definitely felt small in that environment. It wasn't like you were walking into a small rink. It felt immense. It was great.
That's like, they're going to be in the playoffs this year and they have the potential to go really far. At the point that we're recording this, they're in a bit of adversity, the Adversity Podcast. Yeah. So yeah, that'll be interesting. What about so you went and you shot where you were there at Jurassic Park at night?
Yeah.
And you stayed and shot stuff after?
Yeah. So I was tasked to shoot the square for the actual last game. And then once they won, if anyone was there, they'll know, like, everyone just spilled into the streets. Like, what is that? York and Bremner was just chaos. People were climbing scaffolds, like climbing up street signs, street lights, everything. And you were just kind of pushing your way through like you would at a concert, except you were in the middle of the street. And then I just spent a couple hours basically running up and down streets, just kind of looking for good moments to photograph and everything. And then once things, I actually think I left before things even started to die down. I was just so exhausted at that point and just so overwhelmed. I got what I needed and I was like, I don't think there's going to be anything else. And then I had to go back and start editing to file the photos and everything. So just kind of called it, and that was that.
This might be a bad question, but do you have a favorite photo?
From that night or from like the Raptors
Let's go like all of it.
Wait, favorite photo in general?
Sure.
Oh shit.
It's a hard question because like you don't have the photos all in front of you.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I'm trying not to think about it too much and see what pops in my head.
Did you get a picture of Plant Guy?
I didn't. No. My favorite one of the Raptors parade would have been the shot of Kyle Lowry on the bus with the sunglasses, and you can see him with the trophy, but then you see just the sea of people in the reflection.
That's the iconic shot.
Yeah, I love that one. So
when I was preparing for this podcast, when I do it for most people, or what my goal is to do for most people, is try to figure out something that Pete, you might think I wouldn't know.
Okay.
I think it's a guy. It's on TikTok sometimes. I don't know if you've ever heard of the guy Nardwar.
Yeah.
He interviews like rappers, and he just pulls out things, and they're like, "How the hell do you know this?"
Yeah.
So I thought, maybe integrate that a little bit. So I scrolled through your Instagram. This is common knowledge. It's not good research by me, but you photographed a lot of musicians too, like Dua Lipa, The Weeknd, Alessia Cara, Taylor Swift, Bianca Andreescu's athletes, Serena Williams. You've like taken photos of everything. To me that's crazy. Like when you sit there and you think about that, like you've not interviewed, but you've taken photos of a lot of people that have influence. When you started doing this, did you ever think you would get to that?
No, not at all, honestly. It's kind of weird even hearing you kind of list it off, because when we're like photographers in general, when we're covering that type of stuff, you have to try really hard or make sure that you don't become too much of a fan or too enamored by whoever the subject is, just because it kind of skews your vision of it. I think like you can take a photo that may not be very good, but it's someone you really look up to, so you think it's like the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Where it may not be, but because it's someone famous or someone who has influence, it's more important, which to a certain extent it is. Like some people will still kind of eat those kind of photos up. It's like the same thing with I recently took a photo of Justin Bieber at a Leaf game, and even for me, like I almost didn't post it. I was like, it's a fan like cheering and stuff, it's Justin Bieber, yeah, but I was like, whatever. And it got like the most traffic out of like anything I posted in like the longest time. So yeah,
What was that? I was gonna ask you about that later, but like that moment in particular, like what do you remember about that?
Oh, I remember all of that. That was actually such a serendipitous moment. I was so I'm shooting for this for Toronto Maple Leafs social, and I'm up in like the 300 section shooting, and I look across the rink and I see this guy in this really flashy like pink jacket, right? And at the same time I get a message from the Leaf social people saying like, hey, Justin Bieber is here. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's definitely him, right, in the pink. So I run down to go ask for a photo, and right when I enter the area where he's sitting, one of his security guards, like he had two huge guys there with him, and I just asked him like, hey, would you mind if I ask him for a photo? And the guy's like, yeah, as long as you ask him, like that's fine. If he says no though, like
You leave it at that.
yeah, like leave it at that. So we're sitting there and I'm just waiting for like the play to stop so I can go and ask him and everything. And at that exact same moment, I think it was Marner scores, and everyone goes wild in that section, and I'm like 3 feet away. So I just kind of like step in and just start shooting and wait till they like make eye contact with me. I'm just like pointing at the camera and like giving like a thumbs up, like a gesture, like, are you okay with the photos? And they just like kind of nodded. So I kept shooting and then just walked away. But it was within 30 seconds of me getting there. If I took any longer to get there, I would have been walking in the halls when Marner scored and missed everything. So it was just so incredibly lucky.
Were you nervous at all to like ask him, like, because there is like I've seen TikToks and videos of like fans sometimes asking him for pictures, and he's just like no, which sometimes I get like he's a big person. Were you nervous to like even just approach him?
The security guard definitely made it a bit different. But no, I feel like in terms of rejection as a photographer, when you're asking people, like you get so used to it now. Like I'm not really phased by it. Like if he says no, I'm like, oh, okay. Like I get where you're coming from. You don't want your picture taken type of thing. And then you kind of move on. But yeah, no, I just like anyone else, to be honest.
That freaks me out. Like I could, like when I was in like school for journalism, like they told you to go do streeters, and I don't know if you know what streeters are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like when I was with you or with a number of people when we shot like the Leafs square last season, like I was like, I don't know how people can just go up to people and be like, hey, like let me take your picture.
Yeah.
Like there was people there who were drunk who were like, yeah, take my picture, and then they're like, yeah, send it to my Instagram. And then I learned quickly I should not be doing that.
Yeah. Or else you're sending it to everyone.
Yeah. I was like, I was there sitting there and they're like, yeah, just airdrop it to me. I'm like, okay, sure. And then there was another person there who was doing video stuff and they were like, yeah, don't do that. Like you're going to be sitting there all night taking pictures and sending them to people and it's a waste of time. So I started saying no, but like, yeah, it's to me, like I'm a journalist, so I should be okay with doing that. But sometimes it just freaks me out. Like just like walking up to people who I don't know and just being like, hey, like great outfit, let me take your photo. Like I see people on TikTok who'll go up to random people. Like there's a guy in New York who takes pictures of people who have interesting clothes or what they're wearing is cool. And they're like, let me take you down to the subway station and take your photo. That just freaks me out.
Yeah, that's another level when you can get them to move from where they are. But like when I first got into photography, I was really interested in street photography, which is you're basically just shooting people on the street doing their everyday life, which can come across sometimes as more invasive. And because of that, people's reactions can be a little different. Or if you're going up to someone and saying like, hey, like this light, this area, and like what you're wearing looks really great. Do you mind if I get a photo? That's super intimidating and everything, especially when you're not shooting for someone. It's a lot easier once you have a press lanyard or like a credential.
Yeah.
And they ask, oh, okay, you can take it, but like, who are you shooting for? That helps get around it. But if you're just out and about and you see something, that's definitely different.
It's just like, I don't know you. You don't know me. Why would somebody be like, yeah, let me just get my picture taken? I don't know. That's just me.
Just need to make fake credentials and just walk around with them.
They work. Like you see people who walk into places.
Yeah.
Like a credential works. Like you just put a lanyard on and people will think like, oh, this person works here. They're okay.
Yeah. Cause even like the Leaf game ones are pretty obvious of who you're shooting for. But like a lot of events that's small lanyards or there's so many of them, people can't tell who exactly you're shooting for, but I think they just trust you because they know you're doing something with a purpose. You're not just there to take advantage of them.
And as long as you walk in with confidence and you look like you're there, you walk in. But my goal for this episode, I wanted to start obviously with that stuff, but then go back to the beginning for you. Like go back all the way to when you enrolled in Ryerson, 4-year program in
TMU.
Oh, yeah. I have that in brackets here. Now you enrolled at Ryerson, brackets, now TMU, 4-year program in creative industries. What is creative industries, first of all?
So many creative industry students, of you asking that, would be laughing right now because at the time of us graduating, none of us really knew what it was.
While you're graduating.
Oh yeah. It was like, it was a great program. Like I think I really enjoyed it. And we were the first year that program came together. So when we all came in, no one really knew what to expect, including like the profs and like the organizers. Like a lot of the courses were still in a state of flux. They were changing, like they were bringing stuff in, like they would ask our feedback on some courses, which was later used to alter the program, and it changed so much. But it was a really good program. It was it focused on the Faculty of Communication and Design, at TMU.
Oh, okay.
So you got to pick 2 cohorts to focus on there. And then it also tied into Ted Rogers. So you got the business focus and then 2 creative fields. And then you just kind of
Just did it.
just did that. Yeah.
What's the biggest thing you learned throughout that whole experience? Big question.
Oh, man. Most valuable thing of it was the internship I had, which was at the Canadian Olympic Committee.
Oh, nice.
But the biggest thing I learned from there, and it's going to sound like such a cop-out, but it was just like the group work aspect. Like you worked with so many people who wanted to be in a creative field. So it wasn't like a normal group project where it may have been like, let's say a science or like even just a general business project where you have to work as a group. It's everyone was in it, but everyone had that same creative mindset. So it was a very unique kind of group setting where, because creativity between person to person is different. So
yeah,
it made it difficult, but important, especially now working in a creative industry.
yeah. It's to me, I've found like it's nice to work with a number of people, especially like when you want to be creative. Like being a writer, you sometimes have to just pull things all by yourself, and it's just like sometimes the creativity just doesn't work. Like you don't have a lot of people to bounce ideas off of, and like some people are all writing the same thing that you are, or covering the same team, covering the same players, and that's the difficult part is like the creativity portion of it. When you don't have anyone to bounce ideas off of, it's really hard to figure out, is this right? Am I doing it correctly?
Yeah.
Or not even that. It's just if it's even a good idea.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you like throw ideas out there to people and you think it's like this great grand idea, and then some people are like, well, you do it this way, actually, maybe that'd be better. Like this podcast. Like,
yeah, no, I agree. And I think behind every level of success or wherever someone is, there's always, or you should always aim to have those types of people behind you. And even for me, there's certain people that I'll message every time before I'm going to post something, like a photo or something, or get an opinion on. I'll send it to them and be like, which one of these do you think is better? And like they'll give a reason of why, or do you think I should try this? Or just kind of always being able to openly share those ideas or results and know that you're getting somewhat of an honest response, or if they are giving harsh criticism, it's coming from a good place. I think that's like super important.
how do you specifically like deal with that? Like I just said too, and like you just said, like you might think something is good and someone might have a different opinion. Like as a photographer or even just like a producer too, like you have an idea of something and somebody might have a different idea, or someone might have or think that idea could be a little reworked to be a little bit better. Like how do you, if you go up to someone and be like, hey, like I have this idea, and they're like, oh, this isn't that good of an idea, or I'm rambling on, but like just how does it,
I know what you're getting at.
how does it, like how do you deal with that, and how do you, like, is constructive, like I know for some people constructive criticism is a little bit harder to take.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Because it's the truth, and that's the best thing. Like I don't ever want someone to be like, oh yeah, that looks good just because they like you. Like how would you deal with all that?
Yeah, I'm with you on that in terms of constructive criticism being like welcome, in my opinion. But a lot of the times when I'm asking someone an opinion or they give an opinion, it also confirms or denies how I feel about it. So even when I send someone like 2 photos and I'm like, I can't decide between these 2 photos, which one do you think is better? And they'll say like, oh, I like photo 2. And instantly I'm like, no, it's photo 1's better. Every time. But that I use it as like a coping mechanism to confirm stuff sometimes. Like I may not realize it in the moment, but as soon as I mentally like jump and be like, oh no, it's this one, I'm like, oh, okay. Like I should have just stuck with my guns and like actually just picked that in the first place. You know what I mean?
That's happened. Like a lot of the things that I share, especially this podcast, when I was starting to create it, I would send stuff to my girlfriend. I'd be like, hey, like, do you think this is good? And she'd be like, or like I would say like, A or B.
Yeah.
And like I would love A. I'm like, that's it. Like it's great. And then I'm like not really fond of B, but you know, it's just two different things I need. She's like, yeah, B. And I'm like, no, I don't. I'm like, how do you see that? I'm like, I love A. Like it's so good.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't know, I just like B. I'm like, maybe I should just go with A. But yeah. It's that it's so interesting when that happens because like again, like you have an idea, you think it's so good, and you have another one that's there too, and it's like that one's all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy too how like so many different people have different minds and see different things. That's interesting too.
Yeah, and even with people I share work with before I like share it with on whatever platform I'm going to share it on, different people I know have different tastes, and that's something that I'll also kind of take into consideration.
Yeah.
Like if it's a sports image and I'm sharing it to maybe people who are outside of the sports photography community, I value whatever their feedback is differently than people who are maybe more established or know what to look for, what makes a strong image or something like that, to avoid things like before where it's like, oh, it's Austin Matthews. Like what a great photo that is of Matthews. It's like, no, it's an all right photo. It has Matthews' name on the back of the jersey, but at the end of the day, is it really great? You know what I mean? And sometimes the name can make the photo and who it is, but like that's one of the pieces of criticism that you kind of need to weigh every time you're gonna share something.
Do you like? I know for some people, like I had this. I probably still would say that I have it. Like, if you take a photo of somebody who's famous or has influence, do you hold that photo to a higher standard than something that might not be of somebody who has influence?
I see what you mean.
Like
if it's like minor hockey that I'm photographing versus like pro hockey.
Yeah, or like when the outdoor practice, the Leafs had their outdoor practice, like that day, for me, like I don't shoot much anymore, but when I did shoot more, like it was more street photography or like that stuff, like that day specifically, the Leafs outdoor practice was such a big day because I was taking photos of people that I watched, and now as a reporter, like I have a little different lens on, you know, how I view like those people, like they're athletes, they're just normal people, but like at the moment that before I even covered the Marlies, like I put them on such a big pedestal because when you don't get that human interaction with players, you like a lot of fans think they're just these superhuman beings when at the same time, like they are superhuman beings.
Yeah, that's true.
But like at the same time too, like they're just regular people. And like I still, like when the Leafs had their outdoor practice this year, like again, that's a big day. Like I could put those photos on social media. I'm proud of them, but it's also because they have influence. Like those people are influential.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I do see what you mean. I think, it definitely has merit. Like you still want to be able to capture the people of importance. Like even when you're going to a game or the outdoor practice, you know who you're going to focus on first. You're going to get the big names out of the way. Yeah. And then you can try and get everyone else. Like that's, I think, more of a reality of it, because you have to think the people who are hiring you for that specific job, or even if you're just there, what photos are they going to want to use? How are they going to use it? And while it is important to get a mix of everyone, and you definitely do, like you have enough time to do that, you want to make sure that you have something strong of the key people who are they're going to be using for most of the marketing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally forgot marketing. Oh. What made you want to get into sports photography? I know you've said to me before, and I don't know whether this should be being shared, but you've said to me like you're not the biggest sports fan.
I'd correct you on that.
Yeah,
I'm not the biggest fan of watching sports.
Okay.
So playing sports, I grew up playing hockey, lacrosse.
That was in my research.
Like basically everything, but I can't remember the last time I went home and just like watched a game or a sporting event. And even when I was younger, it was the same thing, just because I think I was playing so much that I then didn't want to watch it. And now I'm working a lot of sporting events. So now I also don't want to watch it.
I feel the exact same way.
It feels weird being there.
Yeah. It's like, for me, when I played hockey, I would enjoy watching hockey.
Yeah.
When I started working in it, though, it was a little bit different. Just because, like, I think when you play sports, it takes over your mind, and you just enjoy it. Like, you don't think about really anything else when you're playing it other than
that's so
that
true.
specific thing. But yeah, like when you work it, to me, that's a whole different story. But it's not backwards where, like, if I worked in hockey, like, when I work in hockey, I don't want to watch as much hockey.
Yeah.
But, like, I could go still play it.
I see what you mean. I actually I agree with you, but in like almost a different way, where that point that you brought up of when you're playing it, that's all you think about. Like, you're so zoned in. I agree. But I also think for me, working it is the exact same.
Yeah.
So for when I'm shooting, you put on horse blinders, for lack of a better term, and you're just kind of dialed in on what's happening. Even like the Leaf games, like for me, a lot of the times I'll be kind of like floating, because the Leafs actually has a much bigger photo team. So I'm like the bottom of the totem pole in that aspect. So a lot of the times I'm not even focusing on the on ice action. So I'm focusing on other things that are happening in the rink. So a lot of the times my back is completely to the ice. So I'm like zoned in on everything else but what everyone's watching. So it's the most bizarre feeling, because I hear what's going on. You hear if there's a big hit or if someone's close to scoring, but visually I have no clue what's happening on the ice. I'm just looking at people's kind of reactions.
Do you have like an interesting interaction with a fan? Like,
oh man, interesting how?
That's a good point. Like, if you could think, like, right now in your head of one specific moment.
Yeah.
Like, what moment, if there's any, or there probably is too many, or you're just so dialed in that, like, all you see is your lens.
Yeah, I can't really think of anything. There's nothing really that stands out, because a lot of the times I get that one photo and then I'm gone. I'm moving on to the next thing. So I usually don't leave time for those interactions, just because I don't want them to ask me to send them the photo. So I disappear before they can catch me.
Touche.
Yeah.
I was going to say too, like, for maybe for me, but like, do you ever feel, I don't know, to me, Scotiabank Arena, watching it on TV is very quiet during Leafs games. Maybe a lot more quiet than if, like, say they're in the playoffs, obviously, but like when you are shooting something like any of the championships or any of, like, the Leafs out, or not the outdoor practice, but like Maple Leaf Square or Jurassic Park, like, do you feel that energy that is there? Like, as a fan, I still have a little, like, I try not to really cheer for the Leafs, but deep down, like, it's still a little bit, like, there's still a little bit of like it would be cool to see them win. Yeah. So, like, last year in Maple Leaf Square, like, there was moments, there was one moment in particular where, like, they scored and everyone was shooting beer around. Yeah. I think
I got covered in beer.
That was,
I was so pissed.
Like, that to me was so, like, it was so fascinating. Yeah. And, like, that was just it was sort of, we were still coming out of the pandemic a little bit, and it sort of felt like everything was returning to normal. But, like, I don't know, for me, I guess you were at, like, when the Raptors won, so you were like in the city and you've seen probably some crazy things. But, like, do you feel that energy?
Yeah, and especially the squares itself are very special places. Like I've done like Grey Cups. I've done like even like Rogers Cup, the Calder Cup, a lot of cups. But like with all of that, like the squares are very unique because unfortunately for a lot of these bigger events, the tickets go higher and higher, and it pushes a lot of like the crazy diehard fans to not be able to attend.
Yeah.
So it's great that they have these kind of spaces where they can still showcase the fandom that they have for the team and be with other like-minded fans. And it does create an environment that's just so unique to it. Like that energy is very hard to, I've never experienced energy like the square. Like when there's a goal or something happening, you can feel how tense it is. Like even looking through the viewfinder of the camera, you're just like itching to like press the shutter.
I remember like there was one girl who was in tears at one point.
Again, I remember that one. I know exactly who you're talking about.
And then like there was a girl too who was also in tears, and she was like holding on to her husband or boyfriend or significant other. But yeah, like it's crazy to see emotions like that.
Yeah,
like you don't, like that's raw. Like unless you're shooting a documentary on someone who has had adversity, like you don't get that. So that's pretty cool too.
And they're so dialed in as well, watching the screen, which is great for someone who's shooting video or taking photos, because no one there is asking who you're shooting for or anything. They're just so focused on the game. You can capture that kind of emotion because they're not being self-conscious, because they're not even thinking about that at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're there just for the team. They're not there like to show face. You know what I mean?
I
mean, some people are definitely there to get on TV.
Oh yeah.
But you know what I mean? Generally people are there because they're huge fans. They're waiting in line. They're there for way longer than just the duration of the game. Like
I remember there was one guy there every game. He had a sign, and it was just so random. The sign, I don't remember what the sign said, but it was just
he's there for every team. Like Leafs, Raptors, Argos, he's always there.
There was like, I remember the same people were at like every game.
Yep. Right in the
front.
They would,
and it's just like content wise, like if you're capturing video, like I was trying to do video and it was like the worst thing.
Yeah.
Not because of them. That was like, it's just difficult to do content when it's the same exact people giving you the same exact reaction.
Oh yeah. You avoid it. Like usually if it's like a huge series, you'll get some stuff of them game one. And then after that, you're like, oh, okay, I don't need to worry about that section at all because I know what I'm going to get from there.
Would you rather in like a playoff game, whatever sport, like would you rather be shooting the fans and their reactions or the actual game and the athletes?
No, the game and the athletes.
The
for
game
sure.
and the athletes?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's still it's different, but I don't even know how I would express that. But it's when you're a photographer, you're going out and it's kind of like a mini competition. It's like you walk into like the photo room and there's all these really talented photographers and everyone there is trying to get like the best photo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're friends with them, but everyone there is trying to get the best, right?
Yeah.
And with every big sporting event, there's usually like one photo that stands like the kind of the test of time, or that everyone knows it for. It's the same with like Mark Blinch's image of the Kawhi shot.
Yeah.
It wasn't even in the Raptors final, but when people think of the Raptors win, they think of that play, they think of that photo. It's like it's the photo, you know what I mean?
You asked me before the podcast, do you remember where you were when they won the championship? I had an easier time remembering in my head where I was for that shot than the championship.
Where were you for that?
I think I was at my sister's house. I think we just got back from going out for dinner.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was like I remember where I was. I can kind of remember the shot in general and watching it. But other than that, like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
But that's one thing I think out of every sports moment that has happened in Toronto within the last maybe 10 years, that's the only one that I can remember.
Yeah.
Maybe I remember I was at Maple Leaf Square when Boston beat Toronto in 2013. I remember that. I thought there was going to be a riot. There wasn't. I remember, I don't know if you were watching at the time. I think they were playing Boston at one point, and Kasperi Kapanen beat out Brad Marchand to a puck and had a breakaway and scored.
Yeah.
I was at a bar for that. I remember that. Yeah, but other than that, no, I don't remember things.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that specific moment though, iconic.
Yeah. I was in a bar with some friends, like getting like beers and food, and saw it happen. And immediately I was like, why the hell am I not downtown? You know what I mean? Because people went crazy that night too. It wasn't just for the finals.
Really?
Yeah. So people went wild for that as well.
What do you think will be bigger? Okay,
I've thought about this before.
Like, this is such a big question.
Yeah.
Like, do you think, a lot of people think no. Some people think yeah, because whatever, but does not make sense what I'm trying to say. But what will be bigger? The Leafs parade and the Leafs celebration if they win the cup, or the Raptors one that they've already had?
Oh, man. This changes so often for what I think. I feel like in terms of numbers, I think the Raptors may have, and this may be controversial, I think they may have more fans. But I think the Leafs would be a little bit more crazy than the Raptors.
I agree with that. I do think, like, the NBA is the bigger sport, for one.
Yeah.
So I think that plays a role. It's also Canada's team.
Yep. Versus
Some people say the Leafs are Canada's team, but
yeah, a little biased.
But like people, like, I've talked to people and they've said like, oh, like, people would travel to Toronto from like Newfoundland or wherever they're from to come see the Leafs parade.
Yeah.
But like, so would people if the Raptors won.
Yeah, that's true too. I honestly don't even know. Like, thinking of how the Leafs would even do a parade gives me like almost anxiety, because there's no way.
No, I think if they even get out of the first round, like, I think that's gonna be like similar to the Kawhi thing.
Yeah,
like Kawhi.
I can see that.
But I don't,
because like some of the Raptors, like for a long stretch of it, the Raptors parade didn't even have like fencing. Like, it was just because I remember it was the cops, and then we were sandwiched in between because I had to follow the bus the whole route. It was sandwiched between like the cops' bikes, the bus, and then on the outside was like the fans. So
where were you shooting? Like, you were just following the bus on foot?
I forget which bus exactly it was. I think I was usually beside or behind the second bus or the first, one of the two. But we were just slowly pushing up the whole time.
I remember Marc Gasol. He was...
Yeah, they were all having a good time.
He was like... I remember he went by where I was standing and I was taking photos too. I just had one spot. He was banging the bus with his big hands and like drinking.
Yeah. I had no clue what to expect for that whole thing. I showed up at the beginning spot and I thought I knew how the day was going to go. And I got lucky. I was there, and Mark Blinch and Vaughn Ridley, so that's the Leafs photographer and the Toronto Raptors photographer, they were there. So I was definitely able to kind of like take their lead and see how they were moving around and seeing what they were doing. Because I think they warned me ahead of time that it's not going to go. Like, they had the experience to know pulling up to an event like that it's not going to be smooth. It's not going to be what you expect. And like, in that heat next to like the engine of this bus, you're just roasting and like pushing through all these crowds of people. Like, it was a lot.
It was like 6 or 7 people deep. Like,
the people around it.
Yeah.
Oh, it was.
And like, I remember
it was deep
too, like, the cell phones weren't working. Like, we weren't able to have data because there was so many people just flooded there.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Too many people using them. Yeah. Yeah. By the time we got to, I was so grateful that I didn't have to just shoot the square, because I would have been sitting out there for like 8 hours waiting for this thing to show up. And then, I got lucky that my job was to actually float with the bus. I was pretty pumped about that.
The last question I have about sports photography is, Well, I was gonna ask actually. It's like kind of like a two-parter. Like first, like what's your favorite thing about shooting sports specifically, and like how do you think it's changed you as a photographer, or maybe not changed, but made you a better photographer?
I'll start.
Only difficult questions on this podcast.
Adversity. I'll start with the first one. So, what was the first one again?
Favorite thing about sports photography?
Oh yeah, favorite thing is about sports photography.
There's gonna be like I'm not cutting any of this, so it's just gonna be dead.
One.
Yeah.
Of me just thinking of the answer.
Yeah. So think long and hard, or I'm not gonna say anything else because that wasn't gonna be
nice. I think. I think okay. Well, not I think. I know the best thing about shooting it is obviously you get to be a part of such incredible experiences, and I think in the moment, a lot of the times we kind of overlook that. Like you listing off all the championships that I had the chance to photograph, and even the other things I've had the opportunity to photograph is just. It's pretty wild when I think about it like that. Like I've definitely been very lucky in my career. So being able to not only be present during those, but being so front and center and being able to kind of take my own spin on how I want to present that story is to me always such an unforgettable experience. And it's, I don't know, everyone hears the same story of, let's say, anytime the players bring the trophy into the locker room, everyone can kind of describe it. I can describe to you what the players did and who was shooting champagne where and who was lifting the trophy. But being able to see my perspective versus another photographer's perspective, they'll be different. And everyone has their own kind of visual language on how they want to portray that one event. The locker room may not be the best example because the locker rooms are pretty chaotic and you're just like spraying and praying, but like in the slower moments of I think sports and photography in general, when you have the time to be a bit more creative, you've already gotten what you need and you have the time to really kind of push the boundary of what you want to do creatively, and it still kind of works with the story, it still works with what you're documenting. I think that's my favorite thing about sports photography.
And how do you think it's made you a better photographer?
I think the main thing is it's pushed me outside of just the moments I think I should be shooting. So a lot of the times is, okay, the puck dropped, you're shooting, oh, the play is dead. You have to wait for the next puck drop. Like you're not done. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't stop there. There's moments in between. There's times where players are talking to one another. The goalie always skates into one of the corners usually. Maybe he has his mask up. Maybe they're spraying water into their mouth. So I think it's kept me on edge for other things. So even if I've shot like a wedding, for example, yeah, there's the whole ceremony's going or whatever. But like once I'm done shooting with that, I don't need to necessarily just kind of sit back and do nothing. Mm-hmm. I should just it pushes me to think of what else there may be in that moment. And I think without the sports aspect, there's a chance I could have been maybe like lazier with that. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, I'm only here for this one task. This is all that's happening. Where with sports, there's something happening in every direction.
I didn't even think about that. Like, I feel like this is like the 15th time I've gone to it, but like, it's so true. Like at like Maple Leaf Square, like the commercials are going. People are still like stressed out and they're still showing emotion, and like it's like, again, I didn't even think like that's actually a thing, like to always be shooting, because like you never know what you're gonna catch too.
Yeah, and not just like shooting, but just being aware. And it can come across the wrong way because sometimes I'll be like, let's say at the front of the square, and I'm shooting, and someone I know will come and talk with me. But I'm like not looking at him. I'm just like looking at like the crowd, but I'm still having like a conversation just because I don't want to miss something.
Yeah. Because
that's a bad feeling. You don't want to be pulling up your camera when the moment's happening. You want to have it already ready. So it's like It's tricky, and that's why it's like it's exhausting because you're the whole time you have the blinders on and you're just kind of zoned in.
Now, aside from sports and photography, you've done a lot of hiking, traveling,
Yep.
mountain climbing, mountain hiking.
Mountain hiking. I wouldn't say climbing. Yeah.
I've
Climbing
got-
would be cool.
Let's see if how many I've got.
Yeah.
So you've hiked the Tour de Mont Blanc,
Yep.
the Skokie Loop in Banff.
Yeah.
Is it Skokie?
Skokie Loop. Yeah. Great loop.
I couldn't find any other mountains that you traveled or
Yeah.
hiked up, but you've been to Slovenia, California, Vancouver, Ireland, the cliffs of
Moher.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, cool spot.
Yeah, I went there with my parents,
Yeah.
and like you can get right to the edge.
Oh yeah.
That freaks me out. And so we went there, and like we were walking along the edge of these cliffs, and like I look over and I'm like, oh my god, like and the waves are big and they're
Yeah,
like
it's
white
intense.
water, and then like my mom's coming behind me, and like I think there's a little walkway, but then you can go up onto the grass to look right over. So she went to get up onto the grass, and she fell.
Down?
She fell, not down it. She fell.
Oh, like on the grass.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Holy shit, though. Falling near that edge is.
Oh my god.
That's intense.
I almost died. That was like you see somebody's freaking life flash before your
Yeah.
eyes. That was nuts. But anyways, you've been to Switzerland too?
Yep.
Anywhere you haven't been?
Yeah, quite a few places. Lots of places to still go.
Did I miss any? I feel like I probably missed a lot.
Oh man. Slovenia, London,
Oh yes.
Calgary, Halifax. I don't know, just like the New York.
Where?
Like random places here and there, but the big ones would be like California, Switzerland. Switzerland was for a job though, not for like a trip. But,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's still cool to go there.
Where did you find the love for traveling? Or do you love it? Are you a
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's the best. Like I already have my trips planned for like the next little while. I feel like my cousin just moved to Scotland, or he flies out. Is today Wednesday? Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday.
Yeah,
Tuesday.
he flies out tomorrow to move to Scotland.
That's
and
amazing.
we already have something planned for like 2025.
Wow.
And it's like-
Whoa. Whoa.
So we already have stuff there. But
I was
I
thinking.
don't know. I feel like it always just came just like wanting to go to see new places. I think being into photography definitely helped. Like you see these incredible spots and you want to go there and give it your own take with a camera. You know what I mean? So that's been like a big kind of motivation. And then now it's been more focused around wanting to do longer trails and longer hikes. And that's been kind of my motivation for traveling now. So like last year was the Tour de Mont Blanc, which was 8 days. And then this year there's another one I'll be doing in France, which is probably 10 or 11 days. And like it's definitely not a normal vacation when you're going there to do like hard work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's just something I got addicted to.
And I see here in 2025 you're gonna hike Mount Everest.
Yeah, climb it right
Climb
to the top.
it right to the top.
Solo.
K2 the next year. Oh my god.
No, same year.
Same year.
Yeah, climbing a mountain would be cool. I like the idea of the hike more than the climb, though. You know what I mean?
Climbing just sounds a lot more difficult.
Yeah, it does.
Like
And
when
it's
you-
like,
Especially when you start getting the ice picks with you,
yeah, that's
and then
Not
the
interested.
oxygen tanks.
nope. I want to pack as light as possible and move as quick as possible, not carrying like a ton of stuff. Like
Yeah.
I've worked hard to get my backpack to weigh as little as possible.
Oh my god.
I weigh like everything down to the gram. Like, it's obsessive.
Well, I took an outdoor ed class in high school, and like my teacher was all about, like, we went to Algonquin Park for like a canoe trip for like
Oh,
4
sweet.
or 5 days. We did the Bruce Peninsula too. That wasn't like a canoeing trip though. And like I didn't know that packing was like that serious, where you
It's
like
an art form.
yeah, like you gotta like take all the food out of different things. And like there's a couple on TikTok that hikes from like Mexico to Canada sometimes.
Yeah.
And like they dehydrate stuff and, you know, put it into things and it just somehow gets like so small. Yeah,
that's on the list.
That's
Mexico to Canada.
Really?
Yeah. That's for sure like a life goal for me. There's a couple that go, or there's two for sure that go from the Mexican border to Canada. Mm-hmm. But one of them's definitely on the list.
That is crazy. That is a lot of walking.
It is. It's like, I think the shortest one is like 2,650 miles. So it's like, what is that? 4,300 kilometers, something like that. It's like 5 months of walking.
How many steps? 10 million?
I'll let you know. I'll let you know.
I have Slovenia in here. Yeah. I said you traveled to Slovenia. Now, are both of your parents Slovenian? Okay, so they're both Slovenian. And when I did my research, we went on a trip back in 2019.
Yep.
And it was, you said, I'm quoting you, a 26-year hiatus where, was it your parents who didn't go home?
Yeah, my parents.
Okay. And then they didn't tell a lot of people that they were going home. What was that experience? And like you get reaction of, I'm guessing, maybe family and friends of theirs that you haven't met?
Yeah. Or there were a lot of people I haven't met because I don't remember, but a lot of them have, like, I was just too young. That trip was really special because I was originally going to go there solo, and I put it out there. Like I booked everything, my flights and everything. And then I was just kind of talking to my dad about it every so often. And then he kind of started looking at flights. And then I just said like, hey, like, do you just want to come with me? And in like that same evening, he's like, yeah, maybe we will. So that they ended up coming with me, and it was not that big of a lead time. Like it was maybe I don't know how early you do your booking, but like maybe let's say like a month before the trip, they just randomly said like, yeah, we're going to come as well. And I'm so glad they did, because being older, it was so nice to have a trip. Like I have two other siblings as well, but it was really cool to have a trip just with me and my two parents. And especially without them there, I wouldn't have had the chance to meet all these different family members.
Yeah.
I could have, but I think if I went there alone, I would have been too focused on doing all this other like touristy stuff and like sightseeing. But being with them, they wanted to see family, and I was really open to it as well. And it brought me to a lot of like the homes all my grandparents grew up in and everything, or like the little towns that they used to live in, because everyone kind of keeps their family homes there, opposed to here where people tend to move around a lot more. So I got to meet like a ton of people and see a lot of things that I wouldn't have seen if I was just there on my own, just because they were locals. They knew certain things and knew where to take us.
It's a lot different. Like when like they know, like the locals, if you like talk to them, they can give you some good.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy. I do get it, but it's just like you like if you go somewhere, you see like one big thing that you want to photograph, but then they might be like, oh, there's actually this thing down the street that's like maybe 10 times cooler. And it's just like, oh, I had no idea.
One of the coolest things that they showed me there, exactly to your point, is we were talking about like the history of the area of Slovenia, and it was a very big kind of front during the World Wars. And according to them, one of the areas is where they thought the Allies were going to break in was through Slovenia. So Italy had all these like bunkers all along like the border, and they knew where they knew where the bunkers were, like the locals. So he's like, oh yeah, if you want to go in one, we can go check one out. So we just like drive up this mountain, and there's like mounds, like they're completely like overgrown now basically. He's like, yeah, you see that little piece of like white rock coming through? I'm like looking at it, I'm like, oh yeah, shit, that's like a corner of like a bunker. And they knew a couple that were opened, like broken from the back. So then we just like went in and wandered around like this like World War bunker. Like it was insane.
That is
It was
nuts.
such an eerie feeling, and apparently a lot of them are still like completely sealed because what was it? I don't know which side it was. Instead of fighting the people in it, they would just blow up the entrances so the people couldn't get out.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of them are still like
Yeah.
just like tombs. It's so wild.
Do you like believe in ghosts and stuff?
Because
that would be like
I don't
10
know.
times more.
it's definitely haunted if you do. Even if you don't, it's probably still haunted, man. That's wild.
It is wild. There is one photo on your Instagram, the most interesting photo. You have a lot of amazing photos, but
Thank
this
you.
one was the most, like, I didn't even know this existed. Let's see if I get this right. The Predjama Castle.
This is the castle in the mountain, right?
Built into the side of the mountain.
Yeah. How did you pronounce it?
Predjama?
Pajama?
Pajama?
It's not pajama for sure. I think it's just, oh man, I wish I knew this coming in. I think it's just Yama.
Yama.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yama.
What,
I don't know.
What? How
If a
did?
Slovenian reads this, they'll be giving me shit.
Oh yeah.
But it's like my last name. Like it looks. There's a lot of letters that are in there that you don't actually. They're silent,
okay.
and they just keep them in for some reason.
Well, anyways, there's this castle that's built.
Castle Yama. Yeah,
Castle Yama.
I think that's what it is.
Okay. Castle Yama. This.
We'll pull the photo up.
Yes.
Jamie.
So this castle is built into the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
How? Like how?
I have no clue how they did it, but it was pretty smart because you could only attack it from like one side basically, and then there's tunnels that go right, like up and through the mountain range, so when they need to escape, they could still kind of go through it. But yeah, it was. I forget what the fact was, but it was also like never like overrun. Like it was never like fully successfully stormed or something just because of its positioning, because it's built into a mountain and then it's a huge like valley. So you'd see people coming from like kilometers away. But yeah, super secure.
What? Like when you first, like, did you just walk up to it? Like, how does? Or like
I think it was. I think it's just like a really big trail that walks up and then all of a sudden you kind of just see it. But like you see it from quite a far ways away. Like you see the flags and everything and all that, but it's pretty crazy. And then there's tunnels like underneath it as well. Like it's wild.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Now, one of the last questions I got for you. I've a few more, but out of all the places you've traveled, I'm giving you a hard question.
Yeah.
Out of all the places you've traveled, what are your favorite top 3?
Number 1 would be the Alps from the Tour de Mont Blanc. That kind of combines a couple countries. So I'm using that as a little bit of a, it's France, Switzerland, and Italy. I would say the Alps. I think the Italy side was the most striking. Slovenia would be there as well. They have everything. You want castles? Sure. Caves? We got it. The ocean? Not too far away. Like one day we went on like a sailing trip just for a day, but we had to go to Croatia, but it was like an hour drive. It took me an hour to get here, and I didn't even leave Toronto. Like the commuting there is very different than it is here. They would drive to the ocean, go for a swim, and come home. Like it's such a different lifestyle.
That's the best part about Europe is like everything is so close and there's so many different cultures.
Yeah.
And it's like you want to go from whatever England to Italy for a couple days, you can just fly there. It's like sort of going from here to New York City, but it's technically still an entirely different country, but like you can just go to different places, whereas if you want to go to Vancouver, it's like a 6-hour flight.
Yeah, it's intense. Canada definitely doesn't make it easy for like traveling within it. My third one would probably be. Oh, actually, I know what my third is. There's it's like a family kind of trip thing. My cousin and my uncle, and it's way up north in Ontario. So we drive up north for like 12 hours, I think.
So is it near Thunder Bay?
North of Thunder Bay. So we drive, we drive 12 hours and then we take like a little float plane, and the plane like drops us off in Crownland and leaves us there for like 12 days and then comes back on the last day and just takes us back. And then we drive all the way home. And that's actually, I think that may be my number. That's fighting for number one, actually.
Fighting for number one.
Yeah. I know. It sounds weird. Northern Ontario.
Do you have toilets?
No.
So you use Thunderbox or the hole?
Just a hole. It's roughing it. There's nothing there.
And that's number one.
Yeah. It's the best.
Wow.
There's nothing there. And like, I remember the first time I went, I was so worried about work and like, oh, I'm going to miss photo opportunities. Like people are going to replace me with other photographers, just the normal freelancer, like anxiety. And I came back and I realized like I turned my phone on, got in service, and I was like, oh, I didn't miss like anything. It's like things happened, but you don't worry about it anymore. It's like, oh yeah, I missed this opportunity. Oh, my friends did this. But it was such a serene experience of just being like literally so disconnected. It's not like Algonquin disconnected. It's like
disconnected.
You see a plane take off and just leave you there. So, yeah.
So you gotta dig a hole for, what you gotta do.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you're staying in tents.
Yep.
You don't have service.
No.
If you got lost, I'm guessing you are to the point you're experienced enough where that wouldn't happen, but do you have like a flare?
I believe we have flares. I know we have like satellite beacons that we bring if we needed to use an SOS, like a Garmin. But the reason I started going is my uncle's grandfather has been going there like almost his whole life. And then he brought my uncle, his son, and then they've been going for like years and years. Like I'm talking like 40 years, like not a short amount of time. And then now my cousin has been starting to go. So it's like 3 generations of them.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go as a photographer. So I just go and kind of document like them there. So I'm kind of working on a multi-year like documentary series on my cousin. Cool. It kind of shifts around, but at first it was going to be about the 3 generations, but now I'm just kind of focusing on the new generation and how he's kind of experiencing that space. Like you're walking on the same beaches, you're on the same lakes as your dad did at his age, as his grandfather at his age. And I've been there, I think 3 times now. So yeah, got to go a couple more times, I think, until it's like ready to kind of form. It still needs a bit more work, but
I don't know how I don't know how people do that. Like just go out into the wilderness.
Yeah.
Like I'd be crapping my pants. Like I think I've told you, like I went to a national park up near Thunder Bay and I was approached by a lynx.
Oh yeah. You did tell me
like
that.
I would be like, that's near Thunder Bay. You go even further, you're hitting moose, bears. I don't know about mountain lions. Could very well be a mountain lion.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
And then what else we got?
Wolves. They got the big ones there too, the timber wolves.
And then, I was going to say, like, you watch TikTok sometimes and, like, you see, like Sasquatches. Or, like, people call it, like, I think in the U.S. national parks, like, they have apparently called skinwalkers.
Okay.
Like, you just go in somewhere that you have no idea what's around you. That would freak me the hell out.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of true. I don't know. The animals don't bug me as much, especially because they're just black bears here.
Just black bears.
If it's a grizzly, it's a little different. You know what I mean?
No.
A bear's a bear to you?
I wouldn't mind being approached. Like, I think bears are okay. I say that as someone who's never been approached by a bear.
Yeah.
It would probably be a different story if I seen it. Just like
knock on wood.
The lynx, like that was one of the scariest moments of my life. Felt like I was staring death in the face, but it was just a cat that's oversized.
Yeah.
But it looked like a tiger. Its paws were so big, but yeah.
Yeah, they're fluffy.
But yeah, no, that's credit to you. I don't know how, like, that would just.
To be honest, it's because they're so experienced. Like me going into it, like I knew nothing, and then being with them really kind of gave me the space to become confident with it.
Yeah.
And even now, like that one same cousin, he always comes with me whenever I go on like portage trips in Algonquin, and he knows what he's doing. I've learned so much from him, so it definitely helps with that. Yeah. And that trip is probably what stemmed me into wanting to do more hiking trips, because you obviously can't go to Northern Ontario all the time. Mm-hmm. And like we go in like early fall, so like there's no bugs. Like you would not want to be there in the summer. Yeah. But when the weather's nice, I still want to be able to have that kind of disconnecting experience, and that's where kind of hiking and stuff like on longer trails kind of steps in. And I think that would be kind of a byproduct of it.
Now, I did joke around, like Mount Everest, K2. Is there like, if there's a top of the mountain, I guess you said Mexico to Canada.
Yeah, Pacific Crest Trail would be like top of the list.
So you would not do, I guess Mount Everest and K2, those are, I think K2 is even tougher than Mount Everest.
I'm not sure.
I think just because.
I think you might be right. I think it's more of an incline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's
different skill set though, I think. I think it's like, even for those, they have like Sherpas, and like they're bringing a whole bunch of stuff. Like we were saying, like oxygen tanks and stuff. For my hikes, I'm bringing it's like 13 pounds worth of stuff on my back if I bring a camera.
13 pounds.
Yeah. With no camera, it's like 10 pounds of stuff. So it's like, it's a very different.
So do you bring your laptop?
No.
So how do you?
Oh yeah. When I travel, I usually shoot on film for that reason.
Oh yeah.
Because then I don't have to worry about battery. I love shooting film, and really like what I get from the camera that I use. So I make the sacrifices necessary to lug around like a very large, cumbersome camera that's just not convenient at all.
So then when you do like those, like that documentary thing, is it film?
All film. Because there's no, can't charge anything.
Wow.
So that one's well, you could, but I don't want to have to bring like a generator and like solar panels.
Yeah, that would be
I just like the ability to just be ready to go no matter what. So
what trips, like usually, like since you do a lot of hockey, you also have another job, but like any trips this summer?
Yeah, there's a few. There's the big one would be in the books right now, or not in the books, very close to being in the books, is the GR20, which is another trail in Corsica, France. It's like an island west of Italy and east of France in the middle of the Mediterranean.
Okay.
And there's a trail that runs like right down the middle of it. So that's like the main one. Then just like little things, but I'll go camping and stuff like that. But that's like the main like trip.
You're living. That's. Yeah. I thought skydiving was ballsy, but
yeah, it'll be interesting. Apparently, it's the most difficult trail in Europe. So I'm a little.
What is the most difficult trail in the world? Or is that?
Ooh. I have no clue.
Yeah,
that's a good question.
It's
probably the CDT, which is Mexico to Canada, but like through the middle of the States. I'd imagine that's.
Oh yeah, and you're walking right through the Skinwalker territory.
Is that there?
I don't
is
know.
it like Wyoming or?
I just like I've seen like conspiracy. I'm not a big conspiracy person.
Yeah, but that's one you believe in?
No, I don't believe in that. I just think it's like funny. Like my favorite thing is like when people, it's always the bad cameras that capture
every time
the aliens, the Sasquatches. So like I'll watch TikToks and like it'll be about like there was one, I don't even know what happened, but it was this guy who saw some shape on this mountain and he reported it.
Is this in Banff?
It might have been, but he died.
Yeah, I saw that same TikTok.
That was like, okay, like he died.
Yeah.
All respect and whatever. But like that one in particular, like just
was sketchy.
Yeah. So like you see like in the US, like I guess it's more documented when people go missing.
Yeah.
Because I guess like Canada is really big and has a lot of national parks. So is the US too. And I guess it's like when people go missing, it's more documented there. So people are like, oh, why are these people going missing? Because they're getting killed by these skinwalkers.
What a name.
Or I might be like butchering it. I'm pretty sure skinwalkers.
How does that differ from like a Sasquatch? Like visually, do you know?
No. Have you ever heard of chupacabras?
Isn't that like a dog?
No. A chupacabra.
But it's like a weird looking dog, is it not?
It's not a dog. It might be a dog. No, it's not a dog. This is a chupacabra. Oh.
Does this exist?
No, I think.
Or this is like another mythical thing. Oh wow, okay. It's like a mix of a hairless cat and like a bat.
Yeah, there's like this one looks like a mix between a horse and a mountain lion.
That looks like a dog.
You would not be wanting to run into that in the woods. But yeah, no. like to me, I hate not knowing what's out there.
Yeah. That's the biggest fear for sure.
Like especially like you even think about oceans. Like I don't even know how much has been documented about oceans. But like there's so much that we haven't seen.
Yeah.
It could be a megalodon, probably not, but
yeah.
But yeah.
Haven't spent enough time on the ocean, that's for sure.
Yeah, I've been I think twice. No. Yeah. Maybe 4 times, but I want to go in a cage with
sharks?
Great whites.
Yeah. Would you do like actual diving? Like going deep with no cage?
With great white sharks?
No. Just like in general. But there's the potential of great white sharks, right? Just like there's the potential of like bears in a forest.
Like would I have oxygen?
Yeah. Like you have the full setup. Like you're there with like a guide or whatever.
Like, yeah, I would do that. I think like the only thing that freaks me out is like the oxygen tank, because you have to go up at certain speeds.
Oh, yeah.
Like that, like you could dive.
That sketches me out.
That part freaks me out, but I would not, if I had the option to go into a ocean and with the potential of great white sharks circling or orcas too.
Yeah, that's all probably worse. I feel.
Yeah, I would not do that. I would not go free dive with. No. I don't think any shark. Like maybe one that doesn't have teeth, or one that would not, like one that's a vegetarian. Like I think
like the whale sharks or something like that. Yeah.
Like I would do that. I do want to get in a cage and go.
Same. I think that'd be really cool. I
think it would be really.
I don't even want them to be like thrashing about. I just want to see them like up close. I feel like that'd be cool.
It's like you see it on TV and they're like 10 feet or 15 feet long.
Yeah.
It's a hard time for me to really try and measure that out here.
Oh, that's true. The scale is so different.
Yeah. And like, this is so weird. But like streetlights, like you see them, but you don't know how big they are if you stand beside them.
Yeah.
So that's like another thing that I always am curious about. Like, how tall am I compared to a streetlight?
Do you know how tall a streetlight is?
Nope.
Oh. I thought it was going to be a segue into how long a shark is.
Sharks?
I'm curious now.
Yeah, like megalodons. I think they're really, really, really big. Like busts. But yeah, I don't know. I've seen that movie Megalodon, the Meg.
Oh, yeah? Who's in that? It's like John Cena in that?
No. It's an actor that is like weird.
Like a John Cena type?
No. Oh, it's an action actor. I don't know.
The Rock?
No.
I'm just naming wrestlers now.
But yeah, like you've never seen it, I'm guessing.
No, never.
So they go down. This is the last thing, by the way, before we wrap up.
This is what we're ending on.
Yep. They go down, and like all these, like there's like 3 or 4 people in the submarine, and they're all dying from the pressure, I think.
Okay.
Which is not real because submarines are pressurized before you go down. But anyways, they go through this part of the ocean, and it's like a goopy globby sort of texture, but it's like on the other side of it is all of these different creatures that they've never seen. And when they open it up, or when they go in to it, they open it up because it was closed off.
Yeah.
So Megalodon swims up through. And
They kill it?
no.
They don't kill it.
They don't.
Is there a sequel?
I think they might kill it at the end. I don't remember.
It was that good of a movie.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, they had an underground base in the water, and like it was like this. I think it was like I think it was like documented, but like shot and like portrayed to be in Asia, I think.
Yeah.
So like it was this, I think, rich guy, I don't remember. He had his, I think, daughter, and she had a stuffed animal at one point, and she lost the stuffed animal. It was in this hallway, but it was underwater. So when she went to pick the stuffed animal up, she picked it up and looked up, and there's this big shark staring right at her because it's like underwater and it's all glass.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. It's kind of like a thriller,
Yeah.
but it's good. Anyways.
I haven't seen it, but I feel like I have, just based on like the title.
It's
and
cheesy.
Like, yeah.
It's like a...
It's a cheap thriller.
Yeah.
It's like an entertaining, you just watch it and like that's it.
Yeah.
You never really think about it again.
So unrealistic.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Megalodons. I can look forward to Shark Week every freaking year to see if they found one of those.
Yeah.
But anyways, thank you so much for coming on.
No worries, man.
Thanks
for having me.
Before we end off, you're a photographer, so like some photographers aren't really want to be in the spotlight. Do you want to share like your socials and everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do I look at a camera?
Maybe if you want to. Which one? The lighting has changed drastically in here,
It has.
and I'm really upset because I'm
good.
looking at my camera right now, and my face is entirely dark. So it's gonna be great in post.
This one's all right. It looks well exposed.
Hopefully.
But yeah. You want to check out my work? You can check me out at my Instagram, which is at TSKRLJ, or my website, which is thomasskrlj.com. And hopefully you list it, because no one's going to know how to spell the last name. But
yes, I will need to do that too.
yeah.
Okay. Mental note.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun.
Every time I end the podcast, let's see if I remember this. I created a saying: the journey creates the person creates the journey. And that's what I ended on. So thank you so much for watching.
Like that.
Thank you so much for listening. If you are listening or watching, thank you again. That did not work, but okay. If you want to follow on the socials, it's at the Adversity Pod everywhere. And make sure to subscribe, like, review wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.
And share.
And share. Share to everyone you know. Except, I was going to say Slovenian people for me butchering their names, but share to everyone. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.